This video is part 2 of 6 of the Minecraft's Forgotten Game Mode series. So if you haven't seen the previous parts already, I would highly recommend you go back and watch those first. Click the I button on the top right of the screen or the playlist link down in the description. Search and Destroy. Minecraft's Forgotten Game Mode has been alive for nearly 9 years. And throughout the game's history, it has migrated from server to server, constantly evolving and changing as time passed. Last time, we explored its lifetime on the Eye of Ender network, where it was released and exploded in popularity, thanks to the help of big YouTubers such as Bajan Canadian, ASF Jerome, SkyDoesMinecraft, and other members of Team Crafted, who helped show the world how fun and chaotic the game truly was. And while the server closed down on April 2013, just a few months after its bombastic debut in November of 2012, the community had nothing to fear, as the server's head admin, Eniet123, announced that the reason they were closing down the Eye of Ender network was to merge with another server much larger than their own, created by none other than Bajan Canadian himself. In today's video, we will be diving deep into the Search and Destroy game mode's lifetime on this newer, bigger, and better Minecraft server, and the conflicts among its administration team and within its player base that have made it a moment to be remembered in Search and Destroy history. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you are notified when I upload the next parts of this documentary series, as well as when I upload other Minecraft documentary content. And with that said, let's jump right back in. After Bajan Canadian and ASF Jerome had created their video series on Search and Destroy, they liked the game mode so much that they struck a deal with Eye of Ender to host it on their own server. And so, on April 24th, 2013, Search and Destroy will be moved onto Bajan Canadian's personal Minecraft server, The Fridge. Much of the Eye of Ender administration team, such as Library Addict, Eniet123, and Shaz96, would retain staff positions on the Fridge server, and kept their lead positions on the development of the game modes they created, Search and Destroy being one of them. As I stated previously, Bajan Canadian garnered a very large, active fanbase during this time, and it seemed like moving the game mode onto his own server would yield even more growth for Search and Destroy. And while Search and Destroy on the Fridge was still the same game mode everyone knew and loved, as little to no changes were made to the game during its migration, players on this server began to be more vocal about the existing balance issues within it. More specifically, the pay-to-win features. The community was becoming increasingly frustrated with the existence of the aforementioned purchasable stake from the Eye of Ender server, a healing item which essentially had no buying limit and provided an absurd 4 hearts of instant healing upon consumption. By exploiting this item, richer players became practically unkillable, which made the game incredibly unfun for new players who couldn't afford to buy the absurd amounts of stake the veteran players could. Here, the hashtag staking is faking movement grew in popularity as many players began to finally recognize that it doesn't take much skill to spend all of your in-game currency on items that essentially made you immortal, and wanted to get the attention of the Fridge administration and convince them to remove them. Despite the prominence of this movement on the server, the Fridge staff team unfortunately did not attend to the people's cries, and stake buy signs were never removed during the duration of Search and Destroy's stay on the Fridge. Beyond just purchasable stake available at in-game buy signs in each team's base, the nuisance that was buy signs was prevalent in other forms. One such case was landmine buy signs. Take a look at this screenshot for instance. For context, in Search and Destroy, stone pressure plates represent fucking landmines, which if stepped on by an enemy will explode and deal massive damage in an AoE. And while the only kit that can purchase and place these landmines, Demolitions, usually only gets 2 landmines by default, which do not regenerate after detonation, Bajan Abuse allowed for just a few Demolitionists to stockpile stacks of them and completely cover their base in landmines, making it nearly impossible for any enemies to attempt an offensive push. Situations like these would drag out games for painfully long periods of time, and were again never addressed by the Fridge's administration team. But that is not to say there weren't any improvements made upon the game mode. The Fridge would be the server that would introduce the controversial but popular 4-team maps. The already hectic and chaotic gameplay of Search and Destroy will be ramped up to a 10 on these maps, as you would have to worry about 3 other teams trying to kill you, instead of just 1. While some people welcome the change of pace and the opportunity to get more kills than they would in a 2-team game, others strongly dislike the changes, perhaps due to the comparatively more competitive gameplay and frequent base camping that occurred. To help you understand why people camp their bases so often, consider this example. The game starts, and all 4 teams spawn at their bases. 3 teams, blue, green, and red, decide to camp, while 1 team, purple, decides to try and attack another team, red. Their decision to group up and leave their base to attack red team leaves them at a clear disadvantaged state, as it leaves their bomb completely vulnerable to attack from any other team in the game. And even if the purple team does successfully defeat the red team, they will often have to rush back to their base to try and defuse their bomb, or deal with the other teams who try to pick them off after the red team had whittled down at their numbers during their fight at red base. And while you could try and divide the team up and leave some people back to defend the base, this strategy would prove to be ineffective if all of the other teams were camping, since attacking them would leave you at a clear numbers disadvantage, and would most likely result in defeat. Regardless of the controversy surrounding them, the addition of 4-team maps into the game would change the game mode forever, and would become the reason that many people love the game so much. While the Fridge did a good job of maintaining the Search and Destroy game mode, their administration team's management of the server would prove to be, not the best. First off, Library Addict and the other admins from the Eye of Ender network will be forced to deal with frequent restrictions on their developmental freedom, as well as a lack of communication from other admins. And secondly, some of the policies established by the Fridge administration were questionable at best. One prime example of this was the availability of unban passes on the Fridge shop. Yes, you heard me correctly, unban passes. You could toggle your fly hacks, Jesus Walk, B-Hop, auto clickers, tracers, aimbot, and kill aura and just sweep lobbies for days, as long as you had a few dollars to spare to res yourself and get back on the server to do it all again. Like seriously, staff members were telling blatant hackers appealing on the forums to just buy unbanned passes from the Fridge store. Like, look at my man, Minecrapper9000 appealing on the forums. The admin banned me because I was using Better Sprint. Why would I get banned if Bajan uses it and so does Jerome? I would like to get unbanned because this is unfair. Fuck Bajan Canadian. Fuck ASF Jerome. Free my man out the pen. Then boom. Mod response to the appeal. There's a difference between Better Sprint and Sprint hacking. Sprint hacking gives you an unfair advantage and makes you faster than everyone else, whereas Better Sprint does not. As you see in this video, you are clearly sprint hacking, as you are going 2 times the speed of everyone else. and they caught his ass in 4K. Minecrafters' reign of terror is over. The day is saved. The moderators have stopped yet another hacker from ruining everyone's search and destroy games. I can finally go back into search and destroy lobbies feeling safe, knowing that Minecrafter 9000 isn't going to be sprint hacking on me every other game. Everyone celebrate, rejoice, fucking dance in the streets. But no, that wasn't the end of it. If you wish to be unbanned, you may purchase an unban here. Thank you, but I'm going to have to deny this appeal. Click on the link, boom, go to the store. Unban pass for £5, which is like $7. Huh? What? Despite these faults in their admin team, the fridge was actually rather successful. The server had managed to maintain a similarly sized search and destroy player base, which is definitely a good thing. Maintaining 200 to 300 players constantly is no easy task, even back then in the golden age of Minecraft. So I gotta give the fridge staff team credit where credit is due. But considering the fact that the game mode was being hosted on Bajan Canadian's personal Minecraft server, some may have expected substantial growth to the search and destroy community, and it seems like those people were sadly let down. Unfortunately, due to rising conflicts between the fridge staff and Library Addict, the creator of Search and Destroy, Library Addict announced in early August of 2013, just a few months after his arrival on the server in late April, that he would once again be packing up his bags and looking for a new home for the Search and Destroy game mode. While the fridge did make some notable changes to gameplay, and was where a substantial chunk of Search and Destroy's veteran player base found out about the game mode, it's safe to say that the fridge was mostly a transitional period for Search and Destroy. It was a server with the shortest lifetime of around 3 months. But those were 3 months the Search and Destroy community would never forget. Now that Search and Destroy wasn't going to be available to play on the fridge, where would the community go now? One of the server's most essential connections during its come-up, Bajan Canadian, was now cut off, and it seemed like there was no clear path of where they could go next. Luckily for them, Library Addict had a plan. With the experience he had gathered on iVendor and the fridge, Library Addict would prepare himself to create, unbeknownst to him, one of the greatest servers in the entirety of Search and Destroy history, completely by himself. The fire continues to burn, and burns bright.
I got pretty like a girl, and he got 5 stories to tell. I see both sides like Chanel, see on both sides like Chanel. Swimming like blue water, eating like I'm underworld. Add my tattoos and Shibuya, police think I'm out the underworld. 12 treat a nigga like a 12, it's really you.